What happens when a sushi chain's owner goes undercover and watches a trainee break down in tears after being mocked by the head chef? Xavier Ashland owned all 11 locations of the popular sushi chain, but after buying the company 6 years ago, he'd spent most of his time in the head office. He was proud of what he'd built. The brand had grown, the menu had expanded, and employees seemed happy, at least on the surface. But lately, something felt off. Customer reviews were dipping on one specific location, Store 7 in Glendale. The numbers weren't terrible, but Xavier couldn't ignore the pattern. Complaints about cold service, long wait times, and a tense atmosphere kept popping up. The district manager, Rob, brushed it off as a temporary staffing issue. But the excuses didn't sit right with Xavier. "I just don't think it's worth sending someone down there," Rob had said on a call. "It's probably just a couple of off days." Xavier didn't believe in off days. Not when customer trust was on the line. So he made a decision. He'd go undercover as a new hire dishwasher and sushi apprentice. His disguise was simple but effective: a buzz cut, thick-rimmed glasses, and a fake scar on his chin. He wore thrifted sneakers and an oversized uniform shirt. No one at this location had ever met him. He hadn't visited since acquiring the company, and turnover had been high in the early years. He showed up on a Tuesday morning under the name Eric, a transfer from another location. The manager, a wiry man named Darren with an over-caffeinated edge, welcomed him with a clipboard and a forced smile. "You'll be shadowing under Chef Taro today," Darren said, nodding toward the sushi counter. "Learn fast, keep quiet." Chef Taro didn't look up. He was in his 40s, his expression unreadable. His knives were lined up with military precision. 2 other workers were already prepping, one older woman who barely spoke, and a girl who looked barely 20, fumbling with her gloves. "New guy," Taro finally muttered. "Yeah," Darren said. "Just keep him out of the way." Xavier nodded respectfully. "Happy to help wherever." "Then help by not slowing us down," Taro said, already turning back to his station. The day moved fast. Xavier washed rice, wiped down cutting boards, and tried to stay out of the way. He noticed how silent the kitchen was: tight, uncomfortable. No one said much unless it was to correct or command. Whenever the young trainee, Emily, tried asking a question, Taro brushed her off. "Knife goes here," he snapped at one point. "You trying to cut your fingers off?" "Sorry," she said, voice small. "She's been here 2 weeks," the older woman whispered to Xavier later. "He's been on her every single day." At lunch rush, things got tense. Orders flew in. Emily was trying to roll a simple cucumber maki. Her gloves slipped. The rice spilled. She fumbled with the seaweed. Taro stormed over. "Again," he barked. "You've got the hands of a raccoon. Were you dropped as a baby, or just raised in a kitchen blindfolded?" Emily froze. Her hands trembled. Taro laughed. "No wonder your station's always behind. I've seen toddlers with better knife control."
Xavier Ashland.
He saw Emily's eyes fill. She bit her lip, head down, shoulders shaking. "Hey," Xavier stepped forward, heart pounding. "That's too much." Taro's eyes flicked to him. "What did you say?" "I said," Xavier repeated, "that's too much." "She's trying." Taro scoffed. "You've been here 5 hours. Don't tell me how to run my kitchen." Emily suddenly dropped her knife and rushed to the back. Xavier followed instinctively. He found her sitting on a crate near the dry goods shelf, wiping her face with her sleeve. "I'm sorry," she mumbled. I'm trying so hard. I really am." "You don't need to apologize," Xavier said, crouching beside her. "None of that was okay." She sniffed. "I was so excited when I got this job. I used to come here with my grandma. It felt like a dream. But now, every day I come in scared." Xavier had to swallow the lump in his own throat. "You're gonna be okay," he said quietly. "I promise." He returned to the kitchen, jaw tight, stomach turning. Taro didn't even acknowledge his absence. The kitchen moved on like nothing had happened. But Xavier had seen enough. He quietly excused himself at the end of the shift, saying he'd be back tomorrow. Instead, he called the company's HR director and asked her to meet him at the location first thing in the morning. He needed one more day before revealing who he really was. One more day to make sure he understood everything happening here. Because whatever this was, it wasn't just a bad day.
It was a broken system.
And he was done watching it from behind a desk. Xavier returned the next morning just before opening. This time, he wasn't alone. Beside him stood Monica Hale, the company's head of HR. She wore plain slacks and a gray jacket, blending in with the early morning staff traffic. Xavier kept the glasses and the fake scar, but dropped the dishwasher disguise. Today wasn't about blending in. Today was about watching everything with clear eyes and a clear purpose. They entered silently through the back. No one noticed at first. The prep crew was already inside, blades flashing, rice simmering, fish being portioned. Darren, the store manager, came out of the office with a half-eaten protein bar in his hand. His eyes landed on them and narrowed like he wasn't sure whether to fake a smile or brace for impact. "You're early," he said. "We need to observe the opening procedures," Xavier replied calmly. Darren tilted his head, still trying to place the man in front of him. Xavier had removed his disguise, but Darren had never met him in person. Monica stepped forward. "This is Mr. Ashland," she said, firm and professional. "Owner and CEO." Darren dropped the protein bar. Xavier didn't wait. "We're not here for a tour. We're here to see how this place actually runs. Don't change anything. Let's go about the day exactly, as if I weren't here." Darren nodded stiffly and turned to open the front shutters, but the panic in his eyes was unmistakable. The dining room opened at 10. By 10:15, the first guests trickled in, a young couple, then a man in a business suit, then a mother with 2 kids. Xavier took a seat at the far corner of the counter, clipboard resting in front of him, eyes scanning every movement in the kitchen. Chef Taro arrived 10 minutes late.
No apologies. No greetings.
He dropped his bag behind the counter and immediately began rearranging the knives to his liking. The 2 prep cooks didn't say a word. Xavier noticed how they shifted slightly, giving him space, as if bracing for an invisible storm. Emily arrived next. Her face looked different. Not just tired, depleted. She clocked in, tied her apron, and went straight to her station without a word. Her hands moved slower than yesterday, her eyes low. "Who trained her?" Xavier asked Monica under his breath. Monica checked her tablet. She was hired 3 weeks ago, supposedly under Taro's guidance. That word guidance felt like an insult in this context. The first issue happened just 20 minutes into service. An order for a deluxe dragon roll came back missing avocado, misaligned cut, presentation sloppy. Taro picked up the plate, lifted it eye level, and called out, "Emily." "What is this?" She looked over, hesitant. He held the plate in the air. "You're serving this? Are we running a daycare kitchen now?" Emily opened her mouth, but he cut her off.
Don't speak.
Just look. You see this? This is what happens when you think you're ready, when you're not. He dumped the roll into the trash in front of her and tossed the plate into the sink with a loud clang. Customers turned. Monica looked at Xavier.
This isn't borderline.
This is hostile.
Document it, Xavier said.
Emily stood frozen. One of the prep cooks quietly slid a fresh sheet of nori her way. No words, just a silent gesture. The shift dragged on. Taro barked corrections at everyone, never once offering instruction, only criticism. When a new delivery arrived, he made the younger prep cook carry both 50-pound rice bags alone, claiming his shoulder was acting up. Xavier noted it silently. Monica jotted it down. By noon, the weight was growing. The mother with 2 kids had been seated for 15 minutes without water. One of the servers, a skinny kid named Luis, came to the back, clearly overwhelmed. "Darren," he said, "we're short on table 12 and 14. No one's bussed them yet, and I've got 3 more waiting." Darren didn't look up from his phone. "Then move faster."
Luis hesitated.
"I've already got 5 tables." "Then learn to juggle."
Xavier stood.
"You're running understaffed?" "We had someone call out," Darren said, finally glancing up. "Happens. Do you have a backup list?" Darren shrugged. "I'm not a magician." Xavier turned to Monica. "Check the scheduling records. I want to know how often this crew works short." Monica was already scrolling. By 1 o'clock, the kitchen was moving on autopilot. Orders came in, plates went out, but no one spoke unless necessary. Emily hadn't made eye contact with anyone in more than an hour. Her rice was off too wet. Taro noticed. "This again," he muttered, loud enough for nearby diners to hear. "You've got the instincts of a vending machine." Emily flinched. Her hands stopped moving. She turned toward him, lips pressed together. "I measured it exactly," she said, voice barely above a whisper. "Then you measured it wrong." "I followed the instructions." Taro stepped forward, looming. "Don't talk back." "I'm not," she said. "I'm just saying don't," he snapped. "If you want to argue, go find a courtroom. If you want to cook, shut up and watch someone who knows what they're doing." Xavier had seen enough. He stood, walked around the counter, and stopped in front of Taro. "You're done." Taro blinked, confused. "What?" "You're finished. Clear out. Leave your tools." "You can't." "I can. And I am." Taro looked at Darren, who was still halfway in the office doorway. "Darren? Are you seriously?" Darren looked like he wanted to disappear into the floor. Xavier turned to Monica. "Escort him out."
Permanently.
"I want his paperwork processed within the hour." Taro took a step forward like he might protest again, then stopped. Something about Xavier's tone made it clear there was no negotiation. He grabbed his bag and left without another word. The silence afterward was strange, like the entire kitchen had exhaled at once. Xavier turned to face Emily. "You did nothing wrong," he said, voice steady. "You showed up. You tried. That's all we ask." Emily nodded, lips pressed tight. She looked like she didn't trust the moment yet, like she was waiting for the rug to be pulled away again. Xavier turned to the prep cooks. "From now on, if someone needs help, you help them. If someone's still learning, you teach them. We don't run kitchens by fear. We don't build teams by humiliation." Monica stepped forward. "Anyone who's been mistreated, chef, server, dishwasher, our door is open. We'll listen. We'll act." Luis appeared from the dining room, still breathless. "Table 7's asking for a manager," he said. "Something about long wait." Xavier looked at Darren. "Well?" Darren blinked.
"Oh, right."
"I'll go." "No," Xavier said. "You won't." Darren froze. "You've been sitting in that office all morning. You've let your staff drown, let abuse happen under your nose, and contributed nothing. You're done here." Darren opened his mouth, but Xavier raised a hand. "I don't need an explanation. I need accountability. Hand Monica your keys." Darren looked between them, then reluctantly pulled the ring from his belt loop and placed it in Monica's palm. He left through the back. No one said goodbye. Xavier turned back to the team. "We're going to rebuild this crew. Starting now. But I need to know who's with us." No one spoke immediately. Then the older prep cook stepped forward. "I've been here over 4 years," she said. "I stayed because I believed in what this place used to be. If it's going back to that, I'm in." Emily nodded slowly. Then Luis. Then the rest. Xavier took a deep breath. "All right, let's finish the day. Together." No raised voices. No fear. Just work. The kind that builds something better. Xavier didn't leave the Glendale store that night. After the last table paid and chairs were flipped onto tables, he pulled the remaining staff into the dining room. No speeches, just a direct question. What do you need to do your job right? Emily looked surprised. She glanced at the others. The prep cook, whose name Xavier now knew was Rosa, answered first. We need someone in charge who actually understands the rhythm of the kitchen, she said. Not just someone who hides in the back or dumps everything on us.
Luis nodded.
And we need more hands. There's too many shifts with just two of us in the front. We're running drinks, clearing plates, seating people. That's 3 jobs. Xavier turned to Monica, who had taken notes throughout the day. Start building out a new hiring plan. Prioritize servers and support staff. We'll rotate in experienced folks from other stores until this team's stable. Monica tapped into her tablet. I'll send the first availability list by morning. Emily spoke, quieter than the others, but firmer than she had all day. I'd like someone to actually teach me, she said. Not just watch me mess up.
Xavier nodded.
You'll have that. Starting tomorrow. He hadn't decided who yet, but he knew one thing. No one on this team would be left to sink or swim again. They closed up just after 9. Xavier stayed behind with Monica, reviewing the logbook in the office that Darren had all but abandoned. Schedules were inconsistent. Some employees were doubled up across back-to-back closing and opening shifts. Several days had no designated shift lead at all. Monica flipped through the pages, frowning. Who was approving these? Xavier leaned back. Darren, probably. Taro may have had input too. Either way, it's over now. She looked up. You want me to step in temporarily? He shook his head.
No.
I'll take the lead until we identify the right person. I want this rebuild to start with trust. She didn't argue. The next morning, Xavier arrived before the sun. He didn't wear a disguise. The team had seen him, and he wasn't going back to being a ghost. He brewed coffee, scrubbed the prep counters, and restocked the dry goods. Rosa arrived first, then Luis, then Emily. No one asked questions. They just got to work. By opening, there was a different energy. Not cheerful, not yet but present. Alert, like people were actually showing up with their heads above water. At 10:30, a woman in her mid-30s with short hair and a scar along her forearm stepped through the front. She wore kitchen shoes and carried her own knives. Maru, Xavier said, walking over to greet her. Thanks for coming. I left my last spot a week ago, she said. You said you needed someone who could train without belittling. I need someone who can teach, lead, and listen. And I need a kitchen that doesn't run on ego. They shook hands. Maru was going to shadow for 3 days. If things worked, she'd take over as lead sushi chef. If not, they'd find someone else. But Xavier already liked how she moved quiet, observant, but with a kind of unspoken command. She didn't fill silence for the sake of it. She watched. During lunch, Xavier stayed in the back, helping Rosa and Luis with refill trays and checking supply levels. Maru stayed at the counter, giving Emily space but not ignoring her. When Emily's first roll came out crooked, Maru didn't step in. She waited until the guests left, then gestured for her to reset. Tell me what went wrong, she said. Emily hesitated. The rice was too compacted. What happens when it's compacted? It tears the seaweed. And it doesn't fold clean.
Good.
Now, do it again. This time, use half the pressure on the flattening. Emily tried again. The roll came out clean. Still slightly uneven, but markedly better. Maru nodded once, then moved on to prep the next order. Emily glanced across the counter at Xavier. She didn't smile, but she didn't look afraid either. Progress. At 2, Monica returned with updates. She sat with Xavier in the office while the team handled the lull. 4 candidates from other stores are available to rotate here this week. 2 servers, 1 sushi apprentice, and a kitchen assistant. I already cleared it with their GMs. Start with the 2 servers. Luis needs breathing room. And the apprentice? Hold for now. Let's see how Emily does with Maru. Monica flipped the page. Also, there's something else. HR pulled the employee complaint logs from the last 6 months. There were 5 anonymous entries linked to this location. All about Taro. One about Darren.
Xavier já ho tictanat.
How far back do they go? Earliest one is from February. And no one notified corporate? No flags. The system filters anonymous complaints unless they hit a certain severity threshold. Change that. I want every anonymous complaint from every store reviewed weekly. If someone's scared to put their name on it, that's when we need to listen harder. Monica nodded, already drafting the policy. The rest of the day passed without incident. Maru stayed close to the line, but let Emily take the lead on most of the guest-facing prep. Rosa floated to the front when Luis needed help. Xavier saw it little moments of coordination that hadn't existed 2 days ago. At 6, orders slowed. The dining room buzzed with quiet conversation, no longer weighed down by tension. A family of 4 lingered near the window, their youngest laughing at the chopsticks. Xavier walked to the counter and leaned in. "How are you holding up?" Emily glanced at him, then looked back at her knife. "I didn't panic today," she said. "I still messed up a few cuts, but I didn't freeze." "That's more than enough." She nodded, wiping her blade clean. Maru's different.
She
notices things. She's here to stay if the team wants her. Emily didn't answer, but her hands moved faster, more confidently. Later that night, after the last check was paid, Xavier pulled Maru aside in the alley behind the store. It was warm and quiet, the hum of distant traffic filling the silence. "You okay with what you saw today?" Maru shrugged. "It's not a perfect kitchen, but it's not broken anymore." "You see potential in Emily?"
She's got the drive.
"She just needs space to grow. And someone who doesn't treat her like a burden."
Xavier no dá.
"You've got full creative input on kitchen flow. If something's not working, change it." "I will. But I need to know something." "What's that?" "You planning to vanish after this week?" Xavier looked out at the street. The same question had been circling his mind since he first stepped back into this place. "No," he finally said. "I'm not." He didn't need to be here every day. But he needed to be present, really present, not just signing paychecks and approving reports. Glendale wasn't the only store. If this could happen here, it could be festering elsewhere. "Then start by fixing the top," Maru said. "The rot always starts from there." He nodded once. Already underway. Inside, the lights dimmed. Rosa locked up, and Luis waved as he crossed the lot toward the bus stop. Emily lingered a few steps behind, folding her apron, hair tied back. Maru turned toward her. "You opening tomorrow?" Emily nodded. 7 sharp. "Good. We'll start with rice ratios. Then knife alignment." "You're ready." Emily didn't say anything, just squared her shoulders and went to grab her bag. Xavier watched her go, then looked back at Maru. "That's why we're doing this," he said. "That right there." Maru didn't reply. She didn't need to. The kitchen wasn't fixed yet, but it was healing. And for the first time in a long while, it was worth walking back through the front door. By the end of the week, Xavier had settled into a rhythm at the Glendale location, not as a CEO looking down from above, but as someone building from inside the foundation. The atmosphere had shifted. Not dramatically, not overnight, but enough to feel it. The tension that had once clung to the walls like grease had started to lift. But there was still work to do. On Saturday, Xavier called in 2 senior staff from other stores: Yuki, a veteran lead from the downtown branch, and Mateo, a floor coordinator known for his ability to diffuse tense service moments. Both had cleared their schedules to spend 3 days observing and supporting the Glendale team. Yuki took one look at Emily's knife station and nodded. She's got discipline. Her hands hesitate, but her prep is organized. That's teachable. Maru, who'd watched Emily all week, added quietly, she listens. Doesn't interrupt. That's rare. Xavier let them take the lead. He didn't need to direct everything. He just needed to make sure the right people were in place and that no one slipped through the cracks again. During the lunch rush, Mateo pulled Xavier aside near the soda machine. "Your server's good, Luis, but he's being stretched thin. I caught him clearing 4 tables and running drinks while trying to answer the phone.
Xavier nudda.
We're onboarding 2 more. First shifts start Tuesday." Mateo crossed his arms. "You're gonna lose that kid if you don't give him backup before then." "I know." Mateo didn't press. He just walked back out to the floor and started bussing tables without another word. By mid-afternoon, a new face walked through the back door. Short, stocky, mid-50s. Hair tied into a tight bun. Xavier glanced over as Maru looked up from her prep station. "Ayako," she said. The woman gave a short nod. "Got your message. I'm free until next month." Maru turned to Xavier. "This is Ayako. She ran cold stations at my last kitchen. Fastest hands I've ever seen." Ayako didn't say much. She set down her tool roll and started scrubbing the counter. Within minutes, she'd reorganized the garnished trays, relabeled the date stickers, and replaced a dull blade without being asked. Emily watched her, wide-eyed. "She's going to mentor Emily during evenings," Maru said. "If that works for you." Xavier looked at the station. "If she's willing." Ayako didn't pause. "I wouldn't be here if I wasn't." By closing, the team was hitting a new pace. Each plate was tighter, cleaner. Luis had backup from Mateo. Rosa coordinated kitchen flow, calling out time checks with just enough authority to keep everyone moving. And Emily, she was quiet, focused, and sweating through every step, but no longer flinching between each move. After the last guest left, Xavier gathered the team. Not for a speech. For a decision. "I'm going to be stepping back from day to day here," he said. "But before I do, I need to know who's ready to lead this place forward." He turned to Rosa first. "You've been steady longer than anyone here. Would you consider stepping into a shift lead role?" She didn't answer right away. "Then, only if I get to help pick who trains next." "You will." "Tomorrow, you've earned the right to shape the kitchen your way. If you want the head sushi chef title, it's yours." Maru wiped her hands on a towel. "Title's not the point. Ownership is. If I can build this team, I'm in. You'll have full authority over training and prep standards. I'll clear it with operations." Then he turned to Emily. "You're not ready to lead. And that's okay. What matters is you showed up again and again. You're going to be paired with Ayako for the next 3 weeks. If you commit to it, I'll cover your certification costs when you're ready to level up." Emily blinked. "You mean like sushi assistant certification?" "I mean full prep qualification. We'll invest in you if you invest in yourself." She looked down, then up. Just one nod. After the meeting, Xavier stayed behind to help mop. Luis passed by with a stack of menus. "You're not really the janitor, huh?"
Xavier Shuklat.
"Not usually." Luis held up a menu. "You gonna fix the layout too?" Guests keep asking if the combo platters come with soup. "I'll take a look."
Luis hesitated.
"You know, I almost quit last week. I walked into the alley after Tuesday's shift and just stood there. Couldn't bring myself to go back in." "What changed?"
Luis shrugged.
"You showed up." Xavier didn't reply.
He didn't need to.
On Sunday, the store stayed closed for a half day. Not for maintenance. For a staff reset. They held a training session in the dining room. Mateo and Yuki ran mock service scenarios. Maru walked Emily and Ayako through new prep flows. Rosa reviewed food safety logs and identified redundancies in the rotation schedule. It wasn't glamorous, but it was real. At noon, Xavier stood in front of the group. "I bought this company because I believed in what it could be, but I stopped paying attention and people got hurt because of that. That's on me." He let that sit. "There are 11 locations. I can't be in all of them at once, but that doesn't mean I get to stop listening. So from now on, Every store will have a quarterly check-in team from corporate, not just performance culture. Employee feedback will be reviewed anonymously, and every complaint will be read. I won't miss another warning sign. Rosa raised a hand. What about store managers? Who's making sure they're not like Darren? We're launching a peer review process. Managers will be evaluated not just by performance metrics, but by their teams. If someone's running their store through fear, I want to know. Ayako looked up from her notes. And if we report something? Xavier didn't hesitate. Then we act.
Fast.
He didn't offer applause or promises of perfection. Just clarity. That night, after the last chair was stacked and the lights were off, Xavier took one final walk through the kitchen. He paused at the cold station where Emily had spent the past week and saw a single roll, carefully plated, resting under plastic wrap. A note beside it. For feedback. He lifted the wrap, inspected the knife work. Still rough, but tighter. The ends were aligned. The rice, evenly packed. He didn't taste it. He didn't need to. It wasn't about the fish. It was about the effort. He left a note in return. Keep going. Then he stepped outside, locked the door behind him, and walked into the evening air not as a CEO correcting a broken store, but as a leader finally reconnected to the people who made it run.